Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a deep dive into the life and brand of Liza Lluma,
Liza Lluma, yeah.
an artist, and we're actually working from two pretty interesting sources, a biographical piece on Liza and a brand strategy document.
Interesting combo.
Yeah, so it gives us this really kind of unique dual perspective.
Gives you a sense behind the scenes and the plan.
Yeah, exactly. And her story is pretty fascinating. So she leaves Australia at 43, travels through Europe with her son, ends up in this medieval village in the Pyrenees Mountains.
Wow, that's quite the change.
Yeah, total life shift. And now she's created this business around art and journals, focusing on what she calls life's quiet moments.
Okay, sounds idyllic, but I'm curious how that translates into an actual brand. What initially drew Liza to art, and how did that lead to her career?
So in the biographical piece, it talks about how even as a child, art was always her escape. Her way to find a sense of calm and purpose. She'd lose herself in drawing and painting.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and that deep connection kind of naturally led her to study graphic design.
Sure, that makes sense. Channeling artistic talent into a profession.
Right.
Did she find that graphic design work gave her that same sense of peace that she found in her personal art?
At first, yeah, she really loved the challenge of transforming ideas into visuals. But after years of working in Australian advertising, the fast-paced world, it just started to wear on her. The pressure, the deadlines, the client demands, you know how it is.
Yeah.
It all left her feeling creatively stifled.
Oh, I can definitely see that happening. That constant need to balance artistic vision with, client expectations and market demands. It can be a lot. Was that a big factor in her decision to move to Europe?
Definitely played a part. She reached this point where she just needed to hit pause, reassess, figure out what really mattered. She wanted a slower pace, more time for reflection and exploration.
And she took her son along on this journey. That's a big decision, especially uprooting him at that age.
Yeah, but it was a joint decision, actually. He just finished high school and was also feeling the pressure, so they both kind of craved a change of scenery and pace.
Europe is a pretty great place to do that. Was there any specific reason they chose to go there?
Liza has always loved European art and architecture, especially from the medieval period.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, she's just drawn to the history, the craftsmanship, the sense of timelessness,
Yeah, I get that.
and this fascination with the medieval period. It's actually all over her brand now.
It's true. You can really see it in the imagery she uses and even the language.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
But before we jump into the brand itself, I think it's important to, understand how that aesthetic became so much a part of her life. Their trip through Europe wasn't just a vacation. It really shaped her creative vision.
Right. So tell me about their travels. Did they have like a strict itinerary or were they more go with the flow?
It was pretty loose. They were open to, letting the journey unfold organically. They traveled through France, spent time in these charming villages, explored the countryside. They even took a detour to work with llamas for a bit in the Pyrenees foothills.
Llamas. Okay, now that's a curveball.
Right. It sounds like a total whim, something completely different, but maybe there's a deeper meaning there, maybe a subconscious desire for a simpler, more grounded life, that connection to nature and animals.
That's an interesting thought. It definitely adds another layer to her story and kind of foreshadows her ending up in that village.
Exactly. Which brings us to their arrival in the medieval village that becomes their home. They didn't plan to settle there. It was just another stop, but something about it just captivated them.
The biographical piece mentioned finding a serenity they didn't know they were searching for. What was it about that village that resonated with them?
So the village is described as this place untouched by time. Narrow cobblestone streets, ancient houses, church bells echoing through the valley. Everything moves at a slower pace, guided by the seasons and nature's rhythms.
I bet that contrast to their past life was really powerful, going from this fast-paced, technology-driven world to that.
Totally. And for Liza, that slower pace helped her reconnect with her creativity in a way she hadn't felt in years. She started sketching and painting again, finding inspiration in the village's textures, the light, the colors.
So the village became her muse.
Absolutely. It's like the village awakened this dormant part of her soul, rekindled that love for art in its purest form, and that's what became the foundation of her brand.
Ah, so this is where things get interesting. We see the shift from, personal exploration to creating a business. How does Liza translate this experience into something marketable?
Well, before we dive into the business side, there's one more detail about her personal life, a little bit of, romantic serendipity to add to the mix.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Picture this. Cozy pub, medieval village, Quiz night is in full swing.
Sounds fun.
Liza and her son are the quiz masters, and in walks this charming local catalan guy. He's
Okay.
instantly smitten with Liza, they hit it off, and fast forward, they're married. It's like a fairy tale, finding love in the most unexpected place.
Oh, that's so sweet. It definitely adds a human touch to her story. But it also makes me wonder if this new relationship played a role in her decision to, truly make the village her home.
Oh, absolutely. It cemented her ties to the community, deepened that sense of belonging, and it's this feeling of being rooted, of finding a true home, that really permeates her brand.
So we have this incredible backdrop, medieval village, reignited passion for art, a new love. Now, let's unpack how Liza turns these elements into the Liza Lluma brand. What insights does that branding document give us? Does the document give us any insights into how she actually produces those journals?
It does. And this is where her graphic design background comes in. She blends digital and hand-drawn elements, combines technology with the beauty of traditional art.
So there's real craftsmanship involved, not just some mass-produced thing.
Exactly. Like she uses the digital tablet to create the basic layouts and illustrations, but then prints them on high-quality watercolor paper and adds layers of texture and detail by hand, watercolors, inks, even hand-carved stamps.
Wow. It really mirrors her own journey, doesn't it? From that digital world to the more hands-on life in the village.
It totally does. And the document emphasizes that craftsmanship and authenticity are key to appealing to her ideal customer.
Right. Speaking of, who is her target audience?
Women aged 25 to 45, those feeling kind of burnt out by modern life and yearning for something slower, more creative, more mindful.
So basically, women who can relate to her own experience, looking for a more fulfilling path.
Exactly. Drawn to the beauty and peace of village life, escaping the hustle and bustle, reconnecting with nature and their own creative side.
That's where the whole life's quiet moments thing comes in, right? Creating space for reflection, finding those little bits of peace and beauty that get lost in the everyday chaos.
Exactly. And the document actually outlines 4 content pillars she uses to communicate that message and connect with her audience.
Okay, which are?
Studio, village, creative, and mindful moments. Each one kind of offers a glimpse into her world, the values her brand stands for.
Let's break those down. What falls under studio?
That one focuses on the behind the scenes of her process, showing her workspace, her tools, her inspirations.
Demystifying the art, making it feel accessible.
Yeah, it's less about selling and more about sharing that passion, encouraging others to tap into their own creativity.
Okay, makes sense. And what about village?
Well, that one's pretty self-explanatory. It showcases the beauty and serenity of her medieval surroundings, like a virtual escape to a simpler world.
Smart. Taps into those escapist fantasies, especially for people stuck in hectic lives.
For sure. And then there's creative.
How's that different from studio?
Studio is more about Liza's own process, while creative gives the audience prompts and inspiration to bring creativity into their own lives.
Practical tips, even for people who don't consider themselves artists.
Exactly. It's about shifting that mindset from I'm not creative to I can find ways to express myself, even just for a few minutes.
I like that. And lastly, mindful moments. Is this where the quiet moments idea really shines through?
Absolutely. This one offers tips for, well, cultivating mindfulness in everyday life, finding those pockets of peace amidst the chaos. Meditation, nature walks, just appreciating the beauty around you, things like that.
Sounds like a direct response to that burnout her audience is feeling.
It is. And what's interesting is that she acknowledges those struggles, doesn't shy away from them, which I think is really smart. Shows she gets her audience.
Right. It's not some sugar-coated fantasy of village life. It's real.
Exactly. It's like she's saying, hey, I understand. Life is crazy, but here are some ways to find those moments of peace and joy.
Yeah. It's a great message, and it seems to be working. The document mentions her journals and art are selling well, and she's got a big social media following.
Proof that authenticity and understanding your audience are key.
It does make you wonder, though, how she balances the peacefulness of those quiet moments with running a business.
That is a good point. That tension between the slower pace of life and the demands of entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah, how does she make that work?
Maybe we'll explore that later. But for now, I think it's important to note how effectively she's translated her experience into a relatable brand.
Totally. Shows the power of storytelling and staying true to yourself.
Reminds us that sometimes the most unexpected paths lead to the best destinations. Speaking of, the document mentions she avoids traditional marketing.
Great. She focuses on organic social media and collaborations with artists and brands that align with her values.
Makes sense, especially for a brand about authenticity and community.
Lets her connect in a more genuine way.
But it also takes creativity, entrepreneurial smarts.
Always coming up with new ways to engage, keep things fresh.
Totally. Shows how adaptable she is, open to new approaches. Kind of like her decision to, well, leave everything behind and explore a new life. Bringing it back to our listeners, have you ever felt that pull to break away, try something different?
I think we all have that yearning for something more, to be creative, to live a life that feels right. Liza's story just shows that it's possible.
Doesn't mean it's easy, though. It takes courage, determination, and a willingness to, embrace the unknown.
And believing in yourself, trusting your gut, taking risks, even when people doubt you.
It's that balance, planning, but being open to surprises.
Leads us to the final question about Liza's journey. What can we learn from her about finding our own creative paths and embracing those quiet moments?
Let's dig into that.
Yeah.
Okay, so where were we? Yes, the big question. What can we learn from Liza's journey about finding our own creative paths and, really embracing those quiet moments?
Well, for me, one of the key takeaways is that it's so important to trust your gut. I mean, Liza could have stayed in Australia, kept her successful career, had a comfy life, but something was telling her to go for something more.
Yeah, and she listened to that, even though it meant stepping outside her comfort zone, facing all that uncertainty. It's easy to get stuck in expectations, fear of failure, all of that. But she reminds us that sometimes the most rewarding paths are the ones less traveled.
Exactly. It's about having the courage to go after what truly excites you, even if it seems unconventional. And it doesn't have to be some huge life change either. Sometimes it's those smaller daily choices that matter. The ones that create space for creativity, for those quiet moments that feed the soul.
Like taking time to sketch, write in a journal, go for a walk without your phone. Just being present. Making that conscious effort to incorporate those things, even if it means saying no to other stuff.
Exactly. And recognizing that those moments aren't just luxuries, they're essential for our well-being and creativity. Liza's story is proof that when we make space for those moments, we open ourselves up to new possibilities, a deeper connection with ourselves and, well, everything around us.
She also shows us that inspiration can come from the most unexpected places. I mean, she didn't plan to build a life in a medieval village, it just happened. Reminds us to stay open to new experiences, to be curious, and let life surprise us.
Because sometimes those surprises lead us right where we're supposed to be, even if we didn't realize it at the time.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up our deep dive into Liza Lluma's world, I want to leave you with this thought. Imagine a place that truly feeds your soul and sparks your creativity. What would that look like? What'd you do there?
What passions would you rediscover? What quiet moments would you make time for? Hold on to that vision. Let it inspire you, remind you that you have the power to create a life that feels authentic and fulfilling. It might not be Liza's life, but it'll be uniquely yours.
Well said. And who knows, maybe this deep dive has planted a seed that will grow into something amazing.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep creating, and keep finding those quiet moments that make life extraordinary.